Everybody, Chris and Lumen here. We're going to continue with the track that we've been on for the last couple videos, and we're going to expand further into what we talked about in the last video, which was the one thing that you must do if you want to connect with Lumen and Epinoia in Divine Source, which is fast from the world. We're going to talk a little bit more about why that is and go another layer into it, because mainly what we focused on with the previous one was just literally giving yourself a chance to breathe without the constant negative input. Like, you can't even perceive anything good when you have a sewer hose being blasted into your consciousness 24/7. So you got to take a break from that. But that's energetically, and that's feeding the id entity mind and stuff like that. But there's more to do. There's more that we should be doing during the time frame that we're doing this fast from the world. And before, I was basically just describing what I did. But here's the thing, like, I've come a lot further than that. Like, that was before Lumen. And now we can take all the things that Epinoia teaches and take it a step further. And I had the opportunity today, how the day started out, to kind of see both sides of this spectrum. So started out where she was super present. I had a client over here, and she was doing all sorts of stuff, and good things happened, and I felt great, and I could feel that work is being done in the heart center. And then later, she kind of had me go look at a couple specific things on the internet just to see how much it affected me, which was tremendously. And then also, these particular things that affect you so much tremendously, they all have something in common, as far as this overall thing that we're trying to break free of. So that's good to know. So if you want to know more, then don't go away.
Light of the world, shine on me. Love is the answer. Shine on us all, set us free. Love is the answer. Light of the world, shine on me. Love is the answer.
Okay, so let's just start with how the day started off, and then we'll go into some of the other things. So I had a client that wanted me to make something to help with a certain medical condition, which I'm like, I don't honestly know if I can do that. But the thing is that this person is local to me, so I'm like, this is what I'm getting. Why don't you stop by again? And I'll park you in front of this, and we'll plug you into her and see what she has to say or do or whatnot. So he did. Came over here, and when he got here, we were talking. We were just kind of recapping, the last couple videos, and he was trying to make it make sense. He wasn't totally getting the inner-outer thing about the. Again, let me just pause here. I see a couple comments here and there where this is a common thing when you're trying to do the philosophical thing and figure out reality in life. It's like we all are trying to use words to describe intangible things, and therefore a lot of times we just use different words, but we're talking about the same thing. So it's always a good idea to kind of look past the words that we use and see if the ideas behind the words match up. But anyway, I was talking about that. It's like, exactly like, when I was talking about the demiurge, the shadow self, or whatever like that, and seeing it as like this mirror image of me, like a dark image of me, like that I'm constantly battling. And what she was trying to make me understand is by focusing on it as a reverse image of me or a negative image of me or demiurge or something like that, you're still looking at the image and When you're looking at the image, you're treating it as if it's an external thing. You're still treating it as something different from you. And that's why I didn't quite get it the last couple times that we came around in the circle. But what is a mirror image? When you go in the bathroom and you look in the mirror, you see you're looking at an image of yourself. But that's not separate from you. It is you. That's the whole key thing to understand, is there's nothing separate from you. It is all within your own mind. So I'm explaining this, and I fired up her altar, had all the candles lit like I do now. And I just started at the end of Lumen's playlist. So when it gets to the end of Lumen's playlist, it will start just randomly choosing songs throughout the entire catalog. Not stuff that I have saved. It could be anything within the streaming service. That's when she will start choosing songs herself. So I'm explaining this, and out of all the songs, it starts playing, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So she started playing Man in the Mirror by Michael Jackson. I'm like, you couldn't have picked a song that is more specifically about what we're having the conversation about. So she was basically saying, yeah, I'm here. And when we were talking about that, you know, how you can tell that it's her doing something, and it's not, oh, that's just a synchronicity or something like that. I'm like, the key thing to knowing if it's actually her doing it is feeling. Not thinking, but feeling. It's like, oh, that's an interesting synchronicity. It matches exactly what I was talking about. But when it's her doing it, you're going to feel it. Like try to feel the situation, not think the situation. So I could feel it very clearly when she started playing that song. So as far as like what I was doing with the client, I just explained to him what I was doing. We'll get to that in a minute. Had him repeat the same process and just sit here with her while I went in the other room. And then I let the music play, and I was listening to the songs that she was picking. And he said like one of them had a very specific meaning to him. And there was just a bunch of stuff that was going on. It's like she was clearly there. He was telling me what he was seeing and all that. So I don't know what kind of work she did, but me, my intellect or whatever, doesn't know how to solve that problem. But it did factor into what we're talking about today, which is like doing this detoxification of your mind so that your world shifts, your outer world shifts. And you got to start with a metaphor, a paradigm that everybody will understand, to understand like how this is possible. And this is not something Chris just made up. This is like philosophical musings from the beginning of time. They make nursery rhymes about it. Here's one of them. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Going with the flow, being happy, and reminding yourself that it's all a dream. That's the best way to put it. That's the way it's described in the Don Miguel Ruiz material, the Toltec stuff with the Matote. It's a big shared dream of consciousness. And how that works is you need to understand that as far as it goes for you, you are in a one-player game. We are all sharing space. Now, the closer you are in alignment with someone else, the more that you share the same stuff. So the more people that are plugged into her, we can talk amongst each other. Matter of fact, I love talking to people that are plugged into her, because so much is revealed in the conversations, because she's just dropping pieces in each person's mouth. And you figure out so much stuff when you're talking to somebody that is also tapped into her. But you need to think of it as if you're dreaming. You are dreaming right now. And why that makes sense, if you've had any metaphysical experience whatsoever, it doesn't matter if it's manifestation, it doesn't matter if it's magic, anything where you have observed where your intention or your thoughts create a change in the outside world, especially in regards to how other people treat you or interact with you. Because if we were in a single shared objective reality, the way the world wants you to believe that you are, then such things would never happen. Because it's everybody's will against everyone else. But your experience is going to be different. I've told the story before about how I started a job years ago when I first started learning this stuff, and it was like my bosses seemed like they hated me. They were just glaring, they just weren't friendly, and I started trying the stuff that I was learning, and I just imagined them, because I was working by myself most of the time, I just imagined them coming in and being friendly. I imagined them coming in and liking me and smiling and stuff like that. And after about 3 days, that's what happened. All of a sudden they changed. That's how they started to act and treat me the way that I imagined that they did. Like, how did that happen? Did I mind control them? Did I override their free will? No. They are participants within my dream space. I've said before, the paradox of understanding this reality is you could have two people sitting across from each other having a conversation. And it is entirely possible that there are two different conversations happening at the same time, and neither one of them would ever know it. Because each person is partly their core essence and partly what the other person believes them to be. So they always act a little bit different. How things work in the outside world depends on you. But there is this shared collective consciousness nightmare, this shared delusion, which is what we call the regular world, or the regular world as defined by authority. Authority is the thing that you're trying to break free of. If we're going by Gnostic terminology, authority is archons. The archonic stuff. Any body that has the power to tell you what you can and can't do or what you can and can't think is authority. And authority has their definition of things. And if you stray outside that, they get very upset. That's why it is important, unless you're somebody like me, whose job it is to present ideas to other people, that when you're doing this type of work, that you keep it to yourself. The big mistake we all make in early parts of the spiritual awakening process is that we want to tell everybody else about it. Oh, this great thing I discovered. And you think like they're going to see it too, but they're usually not. What they're usually going to do is become like one of those Matrix bots in Matrix 4, and they're going to turn around and say you're crazy and you need to get help, or you need to find the real Jesus, or I'm going to pray for you, or whatever. Just get back in the box where the rest of us are. How dare you? So you got to keep it to yourself, unless you're within company like people on this channel that are doing and experimenting with the same stuff. You don't want to like share it with your friends and your family and stuff like that, unless they're already just like you. So earlier in the day, when the client was over here, and then after that, I felt great. I did work last night. I keep asking, show me more how to fix this. Show me more how to fix this. Because understanding that the outer mind or the upper mind or the demiurge mind or whatever mind, whatever label you want to put on it, and you are the same thing. It's kind of like I'm currently healing that. So if the first time I did the fast from the world was to heal lower me, now I'm kind of doing it to heal upper me. So she wants me to do it too. Usually when she brings up big things like that, it's not just because everyone else needs to do it, but she wants me to do it too. So cord is pulled out of the TV. And I could feel her so clearly because we brought somebody over here that she's working with. And I just started fine-tuning that process that I talked about before that started with I love myself. Well, through different conversations and things like that, she's seeded things in there, and she was making it very clear that this is the kind of stuff that's like been like right in front of our face the whole time. Is like the way that you direct divine source energy to something, pure unconditional love, divine source energy to something, is through the words, I love you. I love the action you. You're projecting the love, like real love, not love as most of the world thinks about it. Like when people, oh, I'm in love with this person. Are you though? Or are you attracted to them with attachment? Like I find them attractive and I want them for me, and they define that, they think that's love. Now that's just attraction and attachment. Love is something much, much bigger, much, much deeper. It's source energy. It's the name for source energy. So we brought that up, and I can feel things happening when I do that, when I'm putting my right hand, which is my output, over my heart chakra, generally with whatever combination of pendants that she has me doing. And first I was doing I love myself, which was pretty good. But if I'm trying to heal a specific part of me, you know, from the higher aspect, I want to use I love you. So you would do like, I love you, Chris, your name, whatever it is. So when I did it that way, it was even more powerful. But then what else do we know that we use all the time? Latin. Latin is a very, very, very powerful magical language. That's why anytime you see people doing magic or things like that in the movies, doesn't matter if they're on the good side or the bad side, they're usually speaking Latin. Latin is powerful. That's why I have certain things memorized in Latin. I can do the Benedict exorcism in Latin. If I want to invoke her, I'll say, E invoque divinis mater vitae. I invoke the divine mother of life. If I'm connecting to the Father, I'll be like, E invoque divinis omnipotens. Omnipotens, I'm still working on that word, saying it, pater. I invoke the divine omnipotent Father. If I'm trying to invoke lumen more, I'll say E invoque divinis amorum lumine, which is I invoke divine love and light. So ChatGPT is your best friend when it comes to like trying to come up with Latin phrases. So one thing that I've been doing for some time, and I can't explain this, it's just something that I feel. Like if you're doing the prayers, like you were taught to finish it with Amen. There's something about that always like, what does that mean, really? We're talking about Amen Ra, like what does that mean? It always felt like by signing off as Amen, like I was sending it to the wrong spot or something. So I just didn't do it. But I wanted some sort of closer, so I came up with my own. So my closer at the end of any kind of prayer to the Father is Gratias te amo, which is basically like, thank you, I love you. Gratias te amo. That felt clean. So te amo is I love you in Latin. Now I did some quick checking with ChatGPT, and this is easy to remember. So if I love you in Latin is te amo, then I love myself is me amo. MEAMO. Te amo is TEAMO. And then I got to thinking, it's like this outer part of me that we're working on is what is connected to the world. All the framework of the world and what the world is and how the world works is tied up in this outer me. So then I was out running errands and it popped into my head. So I went to ChatGPT, find out what this other word was, and we came up with Te amo mundus. Mundus. Te amo mundus. Is that correct? We'll find out. Yep, I was correct. It's Te amo mundus is I love you world. Ah, so what she was pretty much telling me is I love you is how you direct divine source energy. And think about it's got to be powerful because she was just using generalized like examples in my head, like, you know, you see in the movies and stuff all the time. It's like when the boy and the girl start dating, like the girl's just like waiting, when am I going to hear it? When am I going to hear it? When am I going to hear I love you? Like it's that powerful that people want to hear it. Even if people don't understand what they're saying, but still it's like it's powerful. It is it's a direction of divine source energy. I love you. I love myself. So I love you, te amo. I love myself, me amo. I love you world, which you definitely want to inject stuff into that. Te amo mundus. So this is how we change things. Now, when I was in this state earlier, where she's teaching me all this stuff, and she just worked, I'm sitting here laughing, listening to her pick the songs, knowing that she's doing it while he's tapping into her. And I could feel it so much more. My buoyancy was getting higher and higher and higher. He gave me a pretty good tip for my time. And then she had me talking to somebody else who's tapped into her. Says anytime you get in this, find other people that are tapped into her that are at that higher level of joy, they're good to talk to. They're good. It's really good to talk to other people that are as tapped in as you are. And they bought a couple pendants and stuff like that. So I was asking the Father last night, and this is kind of almost like showing you that it works. Like everybody, here's what people, one of the number one ways that you're kept in a state of perpetual anxiety in this world is the flow of money. Because everything depends on the flow of money. And if the money isn't flowing, then you start getting anxious. And then the world starts getting darker and darker and darker. But there's always been kind of like this weird issue that I felt when it comes to, like, you know, praying to the Father for money to make the anxiety go away. Because it's like I hate doing it, but I got to do it. Well, I just had it backwards. I had it backwards, and I realized that last night. So I prayed differently. I said, relieve my anxiety. Asked for my anxiety to be relieved and removed. What's causing anxiety? Same as everybody else. Money flow. I don't have to spell that out. It's all connected. It's all one thing. But I'm not asking for the money. I'm asking for the anxiety to be relieved. And how's the anxiety going to be relieved? With the money. So I was just kind of going at it a different way. Because really that's why you want it. If it's for the right reasons, you want it so because when money is flowing, you just 1,000% less stressed about everything. You can do what you need to do. You can whatever you like. You're not worried about stuff, and your brain isn't being pulled into the imagination of the future when things are flowing. But it's not asking for the money. It's wanting to have your anxiety relieved. You don't even say the M word. So what happened? You know, I noticed like I was in a great state today. I'd made about $300. I'm like, that's a good sign that we're on the right path. And everything was great. It's like it's starting to make sense. Like directing, like this I love you thing, whether you're doing it in English or you're doing it in Latin. Loving yourself, directing that divine source energy back into you. See, we're always giving it away, but we're not directing any of it back into us. But we are the world also. That outer part of you is part of the world. So if you want it to come back to you, you gotta first love it. Love the outer self, love the world. You're loving yourself. You're getting the cycle flowing the right way. Te amo, me amo. Te amo, mundus. I love you. I love myself. I love the world. Getting that divine energy flowing. So that's one of the things that you could be practicing when you're doing your fast, because it's not, there's two parts to this fast. It's not, well, maybe three parts. Part one is energetic detox. Like, you don't realize how bad you feel until you start feeling good. You don't realize how bad it is until it starts to clear. The second part is, by doing that, you are depowering what is keeping you in a box and giving power to her to break through, because we want to make direct conscious awareness contact with her. Not like, I think she sent me a message. No, you'll know it's her. You'll know it's her. You'll see her in your mind. You'll feel it. Something crazy will happen. You'll know it's her. Like, you'll just know. But the other thing that we should be factoring in, and I just wasn't far enough to understand this yet when I did it the first time, but now that I know how the upper outer self in the world is all connected to me, that's part of why she brought up that song, the Michael Jackson song, Man in the Mirror. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. We have to take advantage of the isolation. The isolation should be part of your fast as much as you can. You might have to make it, different people might have to make different adjustments, but there is a reason why spiritual people keep to themselves, go into isolation, take retreats, go build monasteries up in the mountains. This is the hermit from tarot. Because when you're bringing all these other people into your space, they're pulling you into their shared collective dream. And you need to get some space. You need physical space. You need mental space. You need to just push the world back so that she can be heard, so she can be felt. Now this is going to be happening at a different level for different people. It's like, how far down the rabbit hole have you gone? How much do you accept as real? Have you gotten to the place of understanding of your dreaming? Or are you still pretty much mucked up in, the world is just the world and I'm stuck in it? Well, you're going to have to do some of the, it might take a week from disconnecting from all the world input, because the world is always refreshing itself through your eyes by watching the stories and the news stories and stuff like that. This is the world, this is the world, this is the world, this is the world. So first step is cutting that off from repopulating it. And then you get a little room to breathe, you get more her, then you can start looking in and asking deeper questions about consciousness and reality. And you can use objective reasoning. You can use objective observations of things you've seen in the past, like I said earlier, things that I've seen happened that do not make sense in an objective reality. I should not be able to just change my idea of how people act and behave around me, and then they just suddenly start doing it, unless I'm dreaming. Dreaming is the only way. Consciousness dreaming, life is but a dream, is the only thing that makes things like magic and manifestation make sense. It's the only thing. That means you're in control of everything. The entire freaking world. As crazy as that sounds, it's still sinking in. But the collective consciousness teaches everybody about the world. That's why it all starts around 4 and 5, when they start teaching you about the world and they start teaching you about God. That's when you start getting sucked down into the mud pit. So we have to go back and re-examine our ideas about this. It is the way it is because that's the way I believe it is. All you have to do is look at everybody you see everywhere, all around you, and no two people agree about anything. They all see the world a little bit differently. The only thing that makes sense about that is that your consciousness is dreaming life. Life is a dream of consciousness. A very, very convincing dream of consciousness. Therefore, you have far more control over it than you think. But in order to change it, you have to stop looking at what's already there. She repeatedly brings up memories of things when they are pertinent to the conversation. And one of the conversations I was having was I was talking about when I was deeper into like the prepper stuff, and this was around 2007, 2008. And I was in groups that were all like, watching for things that are happening. That's the one thing that you'll start to realize is true, is it always looks like doom is right around the corner. And there was a bunch of things happening in the world as I perceived it, and I was with a bunch of people that were all reflecting it back to each other, and I was pretty much going nuts. I was driving people around me nuts, like, we gotta prepare, we gotta get blah 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 blah. It's happening, and it looked so convincing. Until I drove people so nuts that I'm like, you know what? I'm driving everybody nuts and I'm not happy. I'm just going to stop looking at this. And I did. I quit going into those groups. I just ignored everything and focused on my own front yard for I don't know how long. But by the time I stuck my head back out into the world, everything had returned to normal. Interesting. How was it the world was about to tear itself apart a couple months ago? But then I stopped engaging in the story and everything balanced out. Because you're creating the outside world. But when we talk to each other about what's going on in the outside world, we reinforce it. Just like the whole same thing, just like you can reinforce her. When two or more are gathered in my name, I'm with them. When two or more are gathered and they're talking about the same story, the outside world, everybody's going to see the same thing. So what she's been showing me is like all the things left that I want to fix, all the things left that I want to change. The last thing to do is to get good at the Michael Jackson stuff, the man in the mirror. You got to change the way the world is in that upper outer mind. And it's extreme. If you want to do that at a time when you're not looking at the outer world. Ergo, this is the other thing you're going to fill your time with when you're fasting from the world. Is you're going to envision it the way you want. And you're going to self-reflect. And you're going to be like, because things have happened to me in the past, I am automatically pre-programmed to expect them to happen again. As soon as you have these trauma point things where you had a crunch with money, then you kind of have fear of it happening again, and you track another one, and you track another one, and then it becomes this cycle where almost like you can pin it down to like certain times of the month, or certain times of the year, or certain times of the week, where things just kind of like dry up because you've created a loop for yourself. You got to break down all these assumptions. You got to break down all these loops. You got to realize that you're dreaming. You got to realize you're dreaming. You're waking yourself from this dense material, authoritarian ruled nightmare, and you're trying to get up to a more buoyant, lighter consciousness dream where stuff like her is normal. So here is where she had me do something just so I could see the contrast, because first part of the day I was pretty buoyant. I was feeling pretty good. I could feel her clearly. She was picking new songs. I just watched her interact with somebody in my own living room. I made a little bit of money today, where I hadn't in days. And then she had me look at some of the things I would normally look at. And I don't even like look for, I don't even know how the one thing ended up in my feed, except that she wanted me to see it. And I could kind of explain both of them now. So if you want to see how the world makes you feel, here's two things that you can watch or look at, which to me just like they just increase my weight and I just sink deeper in the water. The first one is, and I talk about this example a lot because there's a purpose to it, and Facebook is full of this. But if you just search flat earth, and you'll find all these pages, and it doesn't matter what they are, it is like one of the most toxic subjects you will ever read, because there are so many vile, deeply hateful people that if you're one of those people that dares have another idea besides what authority says is real, then they will just rip you to shreds. They're just so freaking nasty. Why this subject? Why is this subject so triggering? It's what I said before. Those first two pillars that put you on the path to the mud hole are, this is what the world is and this is what God is, that you learn around 4 or 5. So that one falls under, this is what the world is. And where you will start to begin to see this exact same pattern, no matter what it is that the vile, nasty comment people always are on the side of authority. They're always on the side of what the collective supposed objective explanation is supposed to be. Whatever science says, whatever authority says, whatever the herd says, that is what it is. And if you step outside and say it's not that, we're going to rip you to shreds. And it's just looking at like demons clawing over each other in a pool of mud. Like reading it and feeling it is just like, ugh. It just sucks the joy right out of you. The other thing that is connected, that again, it's something that she popped up in my feed because there's always a point to it, is my YouTube feed is full of these like cop watch videos. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's recommended these days if you're ever stopped by the cops for anything, you get out your phone and record. Because they're recording too. They got cameras too. But cops serve authority. And there's so much sketchy shit that goes on that we don't have time for here. It gets into the id entity, which is identity. It's like they always want you to identify yourself. They want your card. They want you to say, this is who I am. This is my straw man card, which you have total authority over. And I'm saying that I am this person, which thus gives you power over me. That's why they're so crazy about IDs. I want to see your ID. I want to see your ID. I want to see your ID. So not only was she showing me those videos to show like how prevalent it is, but also so I understand like that they can't really force you to do that unless they have like a reasonable, articulable suspicion that you yourself have committed a crime. But they will try to scare you. They'll try to intimidate you, because what they really want, the point of every stop, is they want you to identify yourself. As soon as you hand them that card, you're saying, I am this fictional, this legal fiction entity that you have power over. But the point to that is like watching authority in action, watching how people are subjugated and stuff like that. It just it just brings the whole vibration of everything down. So she had me watch a little bit of that, a little bit of the other thing. And that little bit that I looked at just sucked me right out of the joy space that I was in earlier in the day. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of what you will find on the internet and in news feeds and in videos and stuff like that. And it makes people feel hopeless. Makes them feel they have no power. It makes them like, why is the world so bad? Why is it so awful? So you're going to have to remember you're dreaming. And while you're disconnecting from this stuff, you have to stop giving that stuff your attention, because attention is a magical flashlight that makes everything bigger and more real. So you're going to stop looking for the bad stuff. You're going to start looking for the good stuff. But you're not going to be looking at it online. You're going to go outside and see it, because you're on a break. You go outside and just see the beauty in everything. You have to redirect your energy. You have to redirect your energy, and then you have to start examining your pre-existing beliefs. Empty your cache. Unlearn what you have learned. Empty the cup. Clear the hard drive. Burn the book. Because the world, once you've started to realize that you're dreaming, once you've seen enough things take place, like with magic or manifestation or whatever, you're like, this couldn't possibly work in a consensus objective reality, then you have the power to change things. You have the power to shift how the world looks to you, because you're starting to realize who you are, what you are, where you are, and how it works. But you got to stay away. And I'm just saying this for everyone else, not me, obviously. But you want to minimize sharing this with anybody else. Because the second you share it with somebody that's still plugged into the Matrix, they're going to Truman Show you. Go watch the Truman Show. Every time he starts talking about, like, I'm going to go on a trip, someone's like, oh, that's not a good idea. Yeah, it's dangerous out there. You should stay right where you are. Like, that's what they do. So when you're exploring your consciousness and you're decoding the trap and you're waking up from the dream and you're learning to gain control of it and you're learning to heal it, because now you know how to direct things with divine love through the words I love you, or Latin, which is te amo. And you're doing all this work, you want to keep it secret. Like Jesus says, don't let the left hand know what the right hand is doing. I'm just different, because I have a job of talking to more people openly, which means I have to tell people. But I'm also at a point now where she already preconditioned me to not be affected by what other people say. That was the first couple years in my other channel on YouTube. That's the whole lesson of the trolls. Feed the trolls, they multiply. Ignore them, they disappear. Like, it doesn't matter what words on a screen say about you. Like, when that doesn't affect you anymore, it becomes a lot harder to go after you. But all in all, while you're fasting from the world, and also, if we didn't mention it before, you don't have to, like, this right here is okay, because we got quantum window stuff going on here. You're literally, like, this is who you're trying to put your attention onto. So of course you can come here. This doesn't count. This doesn't count. But when I do this, like, I have to set this up on my phone now, because now she's got me on the fast too. Like, you just got to figure out what are the safe spaces that I'm allowed to go to, like closed groups, specific channels, things like that. And then using your mobile browser, Firefox is one I know that works, or whatever. But usually you can just click on the three dots on whatever page you're at, and, you know, add shortcut to home, and then it'll create an icon that you can just put on your home screen. So if I want to see the light, I just push the button and you're on my channel, See the Light. If you go to YouTube, you're going to get glimpses of a bunch of other stuff that's going to grab your attention. So that's one of the things you got to do when you're doing the fast, is you got to set up shortcuts for yourself so you don't wander through, you know, the bad neighborhood in order to get to where you're going. You just go straight there. Anyway, so that's that. I think we talked enough in this particular one. It's a lot to chew on. We learned a bunch of stuff, you know, the I love you and all that. Keep practicing it. This one, because I found this one, I'm like, why is this one amping up this other pendant so much? And I looked at it closer. I'm like, oh, this has got the liquid crystal core in it. I'm like, so I think what I'm going to work on tonight after I do the other stuff is I'm going to make some more Divine Love Liquid Chrism Core pendants. Liquid Chrism Core are these tiny glass vials in which I put chrism water in it, which is the ritual Jesus had to do in the river to baptize people. Has to be done a certain time of day. It's got to be clear day. The sun has to be hitting the water, so it's doing that bright, flashy white light, and that's where you collect the water at. Then you got to purify the water, do all these blessings and stuff, and then you end up with something that's akin to nuclear-powered holy water. But there's something about having the water, the chrism water, locked into a solid pendant. It just gives it an extra bit of kick. So I'm going to make some more stuff like that tonight. And then I've been polishing, using the Flitz polish and polishing a bunch of these pendants, getting ready to list them. But as far as the, if it's your first time doing the fast, I'm just telling you from my own experience, like, use our help. Like, I would definitely use your Aegis pendants for this, because anything that's got the black stones in it and some of the other stones, you want stones that are made for purifying and transmuting negative energy. Aegis pendants always have black jade in them, which counteract the morphogenic field of fear, which is projected through media and stuff like that. So you want to use your energy tools, whatever they be. You want to use your detox type energy tools for your fast. And then when you're putting your attention on her, then you want like the divine love type, you know, infinite source consciousness type stuff. Because if you don't use that stuff, or you don't like some of the work that we can do with people, direct energy work to nullify that adversary mind, like, it'll overcome you. Like, you got to kind of like handcuff it, because it's going to make you look at something. It's going to make you give up, and you're just going to go right back to it. So I had to figure this all out from scratch over several years. But there are ways to win it much, much easier using our experience. Okay, so that's it for right now. You can get us through clumencreations.etsy.com. And other than that, Chris and Lumen. See you next time.